All right, we have people dropping in, which is great. For those that are dialing in, good to see everybody. Grab a cup of coffee. I have my handy dandy Starbucks sitting next to me. We'll start in a minute. Can't wait to see how good my picture is. I'm very excited. Awesome. So Sam, we're gonna run a game today to see how many times we can use the word Sam today, since we have two Sams. The good news is I still look like Princess Leia, calling out to Obi-Wan. Sam, your hair looks much better than mine, by the way.
I got dressed today just for you, Sam.
Yeah, I didn't. It isn't bedhead, so I did, try to clean up. This doesn't look good. I still need a haircut.
Well, I've got my caveman beard going, so it's all right.
My wife's actually sharing in the office with me today. Mindy, can I shave my hair? Can I shave this off, please?
Is that the British?
This is the world, Mindy. All watching this. Can I buzz this off? I'm asking my wife for permission. Can I buzz this off?
Oh, no.
Okay, I just got a hell no. Damn it. One of these days. All right, we got folks dialing in. Hello, everybody. Grab a cup of coffee. Let us know where you're dialing in from, what part of the world. We will give you a shout out, ask questions, smack the like, the share, the one face that's doing this, which is not what you should be doing COVID-19. Everybody ping us, let us know where you're at, ask questions. It's good to have you all here. Happy Monday. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 14th episode of Fintech Insider, the Breakfast Show US. This is a show from 11S inside the Fintech and banking space. I'm Sam, 11S Managing Director North America. I will be host for this morning's show. I want everybody to know, especially producer Tobias, who's out in Copenhagen, just north of Copenhagen, and Amazon delivered me yet another adapter for my Mac so that I can plug into my Ethernet cable, so I won't look like I'm dialing in from the bottom of a sewer, as I do right now. So tomorrow I will be broadcasting live from my daughter Alex's bedroom. This should be really, really interesting. I'm going to work on a backdrop for that. Let us know where you're watching from. We love hearing from you guys. Ask questions, because today we're joined by Sam Taussig, Head of Policy at Kabbage. We're going to talk about Kabbage, what they're doing to help small businesses in the current situation, the importance of the PPP loans, and Kabbage's resources for the customer during these times. The most important question, Sam, one, did I get your surname right?
Yes, you did, Sam. Thank you very much.
Spelled it phonetically. And two, where are you at? What part of the world?
I'm coming at you today from Atlanta, Georgia.
Lovely Atlanta, Georgia. I lived in Atlanta all during the 90s. Still the worst traffic in the world outside of Istanbul, in my opinion.
Not right now. The roads are empty.
Yeah, brag. Not right now. The only time I saw the roads empty was when you had the snow hit in 2010. You remember that great storm?
The snowpocalypse. The all the abandoned cars, yeah.
Yeah, I lived through that. I lived in up in Alpharetta during that wonderful time. It was great. All right, so Sam, let's jump right in. One, for folks that are watching and don't know, can you give us the 30-second overview of who Kabbage is, if you don't mind?
Absolutely, Sam. So Kabbage is one of the largest, if not the largest, online small business lending and other financial services fintech in the United States. We started about 10 years ago with the goal to provide truly automated, easy-to-use lending services and credit services to a small business. The core of the product is a small business, and we're serving those 3 to 10 employee Main Street small businesses. They come to the platform, they provide us their underlying small business data, their checking account, their credit card processing, their shipping records, anything that represents a transaction. We ingest that into the platform, we provide them a holistic underwriting experience in about 10 minutes and spit them out back an offer with a line of credit. We've since expanded into payment services to compete directly with folks like Square and PayPal, and are piloting other products in the banking world as well. And most recently, bringing our data insights program online, which is a really powerful machine learning engine to give that small business super granular insight into the cash in, cash out, cash at rest, and cash at work in their business. So, it's been a long time coming for Kabbage to get to that full suite of services. But in 2020 and beyond, we're confident that we're going to be the central point of a small business's financial life.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about Kabbage, for those that don't know, one, good friends to 11FS, we really appreciate the folks there. We actually did a live show from Kabbage's Atlanta office 2 years ago now. Wow. Actually, one of the craziest, most fun live shows we've ever had. I can't remember the individual that busted out the fans. God, I love that dude.
Joe Brooks. Shout out to Joe.
What a legend. What a legend. Still the funniest moments ever on a FinTech Insider live show or podcast. But what's very interesting about Kabbage is it actually started during the crisis back in 2008. I mean, your founders were out raising funds, 2009, 2010. And I remember both Rob and Catherine telling me, and by the way, always call her Catherine, not Kath, but Rob and Catherine telling me it was interesting back in that time when they were going out and trying to raise funds that a lot of the VCs didn't grasp the concept of providing lending to SMEs and the questions they would ask, which is really a market for that.
Yeah, not only did they not grasp the importance of small business and small business financial services, despite the fact that small businesses are half of our non-farm GDP here in the United States, they really didn't understand the automation piece. A lot of investors, and really, frankly, even to this day, a lot of folks in the larger financial services industry will ask, well, how come you don't just allow people to upload paper documents or scan stuff in? And quite frankly, the answer to that is, well, that's really hard and expensive to do. But more importantly, we live in a digital economy and with digital commerce now, and we really need to be the trailblazer there to promote people, to promote digital and technology, underwriting, and really force people and promote that methodology. And we see it right now, frankly, with a lot of inequity. Folks that don't have easy access to digital finance are struggling right now to figure out exactly what's going on in their business and access other programs or other lending programs or aid programs right now. So it's a really important topic that we've always been out front on.
Hey, do me a favor, talk a little bit about your role, right? You're the head of policy at Kabbage, so obviously this is where you're focusing on, but can you dive a little bit deeper?
Yeah, I have an unusual job at Kabbage. I look after a lot of the interactions that leave our four corners. So I work a lot with our regulators. I work a lot with policymakers in Washington at the state level and actually around the world, but that also involves a lot of research. So whether that's just talking with industry analysts to provide greater insights into like what we do all day and what the rest of us in the fintech world do, to deeper empirical analysis and things like that. And then some operational roles around privacy and data security and the future of artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's never a dull day at Kabbage. Unfortunately, right now, it's not dull either. I think most of us haven't slept in 45 days. But it's a really fun perch to sit on to watch the entire fintech industry grow and maturate in this right now.
So let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the U.S. right now. So just a quick summary. Congress a couple of weeks back passed, and the president passed the CARES Act. So they had the PPP program come in, $350 billion set aside. In a somewhat different or unique approach, they asked the financial services industry, the banks within the U.S., to become the distribution arm of those loans. We saw a flood of requests come in. And when I say a flood of requests come in. And we saw, as you'd expect, issues with applying for the loans, issues trying to get those. But I can say that the community banks really stepped up. The larger banks, they got there, but the money went quick. I guess that's a nice way of saying it. So where we're at today is, NBC just reported on this. The Senate is close to a $370 billion deal for coronavirus small business loans. As of Sunday night, last night, the Senate Democrats and Republicans were negotiating a deal that allocate $310 billion more into the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP as we call it. They set aside $60 billion for rural and minority groups. The remaining $60 billion would go to Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, a separate program offering loans for small businesses. In the mix of all that, lenders and fintech companies such as Kabbage are in the mix to be able to provide those loans, right?
That's correct. And Sam, you mentioned that Kabbage was really born in the crisis, and for all intents and purposes, fintech was made to work in an environment like this where we have to administer the Paycheck Protection Program and act as that conduit for government aid. And the reason I say that is if you step back and look at the PPP, it's a rather complex system. Quite frankly, Congress and the Treasury and the Small Business Administration are forcing us all to innovate and reinvent a new permutation on our financial system to distribute what is effectively a government grant. Now, just 2 seconds on the PPP, it's a 2.5 months times payroll grant that if you as a small business don't pay your employees with that money, then it'll actually convert into a loan for 2 years. So when you go out to the financial services universe and say, hey, bring your customers on board to a PPP as a grant and a loan, a lot of the big banks really struggled to run through the Bank Secrecy Act and the Know Your Customer and the anti-money laundering alphabet soup of regulations and standards that we have here in the United States. And they had an even harder time validating and verifying the eligibility for their customers. So they primarily focused on, one, their big customers, and two, customers to which they've had credit transactions with before. So not even just deposit account holders, but folks that have taken a loan out from one of those big banks. And that's created a real huge friction point for the true small businesses, those Main Street businesses that don't have those deep banking connections or don't have the accounting or legal staff on hand to be able to understand all the forms and documentation and other requirements to be eligible in this program and get validated as opposed to underwritten. And so fintech, Kabbage as one of them, has really stepped into this void, bringing a data and technology solution there. It's not a perfect process. It's not a perfect program. And we've built all of this, call it in the last 2.5 weeks. But it's very important for those small businesses on Main Street to get access. In fact, only about 2% of them, when you include all of the independent contractors, were able to access funds from this most recent $349 billion round of funding.
Can you repeat that stat again?
Yes. So 2% of America's small businesses, when you factor in the independent contractors and the sole proprietors that are also eligible for this aid program, only 2% of American businesses, small businesses, actually received funding from the Paycheck Protection Program. And that is $349 billion worth of funding.
So one of the stories that's come out and actually hit the news wires today, part of what we saw, and one of the worries going into this was if you were a well-funded, medium-sized business, you had great accountant teams, you had great lawyers that you could lean into, the odds of you being able to get access to these loans and at the speed at which you could apply would upset the apple cart. And again, we built this on the fly, all right? Congress puts this together rapidly. Companies and banks rapidly put the program together. But we did see stories such as, Ruth Chris, Taco Cabana, Jay Alexander's, Potbelly, and even Shake Shack that were given, $10 million, $20 million for these loans, and I really wouldn't classify them as small business. However, today, Denny Meyer with Shake Shack actually is returning the $10 million, saying he doesn't need it. Good move. Really good move, in my opinion. Well done, Denny. And you would expect that from somebody like Denny Meyer, for those that are familiar with him and know him. But it tells you how much work there still is to go on this. The fact that they were able to apply for this.
There is, and we were looking at our stats for the money that we were able to get out, and the average loan there, the average PPP loan from Kabbage to that population was about $50,000, and so we're doing the best we can here to serve those small businesses. But at the end of the day, we're going to need another tranche of funding that Congress is promising this week. Quite frankly, I think we're going to need more after that. There are so many small businesses on Main Street here that have been shut down for, at this point, over a month. And, JP Morgan has a lovely report, very, very nice graphics that says the average small business only has 27 days of cash reserves. Well, in the United States, we classify a small business as less than 500 employees. So when we look at our customers, our target population that Kabbage works with, again, those Main Street folks, they only have about 10 to 12 days of cash on hand. And I think almost every city and most counties in America at this point have been on mandatory lockdowns, mandatory quarantines for more than 12 days at this point. It is a bloodbath on Main Street.
I had a good question that just came in. I'm going to.
That's a good question. So for the purpose of the Paycheck Protection Program loan, we've actually been deputized by the Treasury Department as a direct lender. We have a letter. It's a very short letter, but it says Kabbage has all of the requisite and programs and protections and lines of defense built in to service this program. In our normal business as usual environment, Kabbage actually partners with a network of banks for our product structures. So we have a bank partner for lending. We have a couple of different partners for payments. And the reason we do that is so that we can serve all of the United States in a uniform product structure, so that customers can have an equal experience. And frankly, we can build really good products and only have to build them once instead of potentially 50 different times for 50 different states.
Your top 2 or 3 proclamations as king of compliance with respect to what's happening?
That's a great question, Sam. And so Jason asked me this question. Only, I don't know, like 2 months ago, we were in Utah, and certainly my answer is going to change given what's going on. But what I told him and what I think still stands for priority number 1 is policymakers have to treat risk as it's presented in the ecosystem, not what the potential, permutation of risk might be because we have different buckets. No, risk as presented by fintechs needs to be treated, regulated, discussed for what actually is presented. And what I mean by that is Kabbage is not a depository institution. We don't take customer deposits. We don't present risk to taxpayer dollars in that way. We are a credit and a payments and a data insights organization. And so whether it's federal, international, or state governments look at fintech regulation, we need to think very carefully about, hey, Kabbage doesn't need to fit into the box of regulation that a traditional bank would. We present different risks that should be appropriately discussed and then create policies around that. And that is actually really relevant to what's going on in the Paycheck Protection Program right now. Washington is really, really concerned about waste, fraud, and abuse. And that's fine. we should have fraud measures in place. We should have anti-money laundering measures and things to check for, criminal activity for businesses that may be trying to take advantage of these funds for nefarious purposes. But that should not be the number one priority. If we're so worried about waste, fraud, and abuse, we're missing the entire massive crisis that's happening on Main Street and slowing down the policy response to get these folks stabilized. Small businesses need emergency liquidity. They need it to keep their doors open. They need it to keep their employees on payroll and to keep their employees home. Remember, the whole reason we're doing this is to pay employees to stay home, to flatten the curve, and to keep them on the payroll so they can maintain their health insurance and other benefits. On those lines, the other thing I would say, if I was, let's say the Secretary of the Treasury, is we do need to set aside some money. Maybe it's this tranche, maybe it's the next tranche. Set aside some money for the smaller businesses. There are so many different types of small business in America, and that's great. But if we let our restaurants and we let our hair care salons and we let our florists go out of business on Main Street, the ripple effect, that negative economic multiplier in this case, will be massive, and it will slow our recovery. So I really, truly believe that Congress and the Treasury Secretary and the Small Business Administration need to think very carefully about reserving dollars for Main Street America.
Yeah. I was about to give Tobias a huge compliment because we suddenly both looked great. And now we're back to typical LinkedIn Live. We both look like we're being skewed. So a great question by Amanda Moore. That are struggling the most with digital methodologies and the particular industry, and what do you think needs to happen for them to be able to have more digital operations? It's a good question.
Good question. So a couple of years ago, I was in LA, and we were working with the LA City Council and the LA County Council on a small business administration pilot program. It's called the Plum Initiative. It's the Partnership for Lending in Underserved Markets. And I got this question a lot from local leaders, local small business leaders, as well as local civil rights and other activists. And they said, hey, we think Kabbage is great. In fact, we really recognize that Kabbage and the applications that we employ have a protected class blind nature of it. Another way to say that is I never see a borrower. So there's no opportunity for Kabbage to make any sort of human judgment call on any sort of, sex-based or race-based lines. It's strictly about the underlying data and the performance of that business. But they made the point that, a lot of our communities don't have stable access to broadband or don't have cell coverage that they can conduct mobile payment processing on. I mean, we're seeing the bandwidth issues right now on our connection here. And I was like, that's a really interesting point. And when we dug into that more, what that created was an entire waterfall of issues about people not wanting to use digital account ledgers or book transactions or access payment services. And it kept them in strictly a cash world, which led to all sorts of discrepancies on taxes later down the line. So one of the things that we had proposed inside of the Plum program, but also at the state of California and LA City Council and LA County Council, was setting aside some funding, setting aside some project dollars for prioritizing broadband access, but also bringing to bear the public-private partnerships that banks, as part of their community outreach mandates in the United States, called the Community Reinvestment Act, Fintechs as part of our general way of doing business and ability to create lots of content, and local governments and other nonprofits can partner to deliver, high-quality technical assistance for a high-tech and high-touch environment. And I think starting at the root of that problem is really, really important. And by the way, it's not just LA. We see that in rural communities as well.
I do want to get to this question. This is a good one. Dan Fennehy over in London asked this around the SoftBank investment and your plans for international growth. But before we go there, I do want to touch on something that Kabbage did. So, I mean, very early on when I think it was back in March when we started to go through the lockdowns and we're really starting to see the ramp up of COVID in the US. One of the things that Kabbage did was offer a gift certificate solution. And implemented it like that. That was one of the fastest turnarounds I've seen. Can you touch on that just a little bit and how you've seen, the program working?
our understanding of what's going on, we decided to launch a gift certificate program. And we did it in less than 3 days. From the moment that Rob sent his first text message to the first gift card transaction that we processed, it was under 3 days. And what a small business can do here is they can go on to helpsmallbusiness.com and they can register a profile so that they can go out to their customer base and say, hey, we're not operational today. The doors are closed, but you can buy a future gift certificate to our restaurant, our barbershop, whatever it is, to our store. And Kabbage will help them book that revenue today. In fact, we're using our new payments platform to do that and trying to cut out as many other middleman fees as possible so that they can get cash in their account today to pay their employees and obviously have the promise of serving future products or services tomorrow. And the really, really exciting thing was how many partners came on board to help us with this. UPS was an example of them, but Facebook. So Facebook agreed to integrate with this product and list it on the Facebook and Instagram places so that they can use their hyper-local micro-targeting technology to help consumers find ways to support their local businesses and obviously to help those small businesses connect with their customer base during this time of quarantine. So it's been really special. We're really proud of it. Again, that URL is helpsmallbusiness.com if you're in the United States and want to help your local businesses, or if you are a small business watching this and want to sign up, it's there, it's quick, it's easy. And we're trying to do everything we can to again, provide government aid, but also get creative around cash conservation and other forms of liquidity management.
So we've got a couple of folks, and last question I'm going to ask you. We got a couple of folks. We got somebody that has consistently come on from Pakistan. I love that. A bunch of folks in the UK, and a good question from Dan in London, and it's around the SoftBank investment. So obviously this is something you're going to look at as we get through the current crisis that we're going through. But how's it helping you focus on any international ambition you have, the SoftBank investment?
That's a great question, Sam. And SoftBank's been a fantastic partner of ours through the beginning here, and we've had a long relationship with them. So to be totally honest, we need to get out of this crisis first before we start thinking about other international opportunities for Kabbage. And I think some of the folks dialing in know that we've had partnerships in Europe before where Kabbage actually integrated with large global banks to deliver our technology as a software as a service platform to help those banks underwrite small business credit. What we're doing here today, and obviously, COVID-19 is delaying some of these products, but we're building, as I mentioned at the top of the show, this whole suite of products and services for small businesses so that a small business will, pick up their phone in the morning, log in, and look at everything that's happening in their business. Dollars in, dollars out, dollars at work, dollars at rest, future investments, reordering, connecting with all sorts of other suppliers and whatnot, and really managing their day-to-day finances with Kabbage. Once we perfect that here and build out all of that technology, I do think that future international expansion and investment is absolutely on the table. We're not opposed to it at all. but we want to build and reimagine Kabbage. Once again, innovate or die. We want to build and reimagine Kabbage here for the United States first.
Well, folks, we're actually up against the hour. Sam, you would not believe the number of questions that we haven't been able to get to yet. I'm going to ping those over to you.
Sure.
And folks, 100% guarantee Sam will answer those. And this Sam will jump in on a couple of those. So John Zana, Simon Taylor, Veronica, a host of folks asking questions about Kabbage and the different programs you have going. A lot around PPP, a lot around the gift certificates that you're doing. So great questions. Everybody, thank you for jumping in on that. Sam, as far as you, where's the best place to find people more about you for the policy ones that want to talk with you? What's the best way to engage with you and find out more about Kabbage and the programs you have going on?
Yeah, so to find out more about Kabbage, everything about PPP is on our website, kabbage.com. I'm on Twitter at Sam Taussig, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk here today, Sam. It's really important for different media outlets and other content providers to dig deep into not only what's going on with PPP, but how Fintech is going to shape it. There's been a lot of conversation in Washington right now, kind of jokingly saying that, Fintech policy just moved about 10 years inside of 2 months. I really believe that. And so I look forward to connecting with all sorts of folks around the world to discuss these things. And we'll keep on keeping on here trying to help small businesses.
Yeah, and like I said, folks, dial in tomorrow. I'll be doing this live from my 17-year-old daughter's bedroom since the router's in her room, and now I have a Mac dongle that will allow me to use the Ethernet. If my picture still looks like Princess Leia tomorrow, it's 100% LinkedIn's fault. I've done everything I can possibly do not to look absolutely horrible on this. I'd like to give Alex Gillette a shout out for saying my hair looks lovely today. I love you, Alex. Thank you. I'll accept that compliment. Tomorrow's show is John Hope Bryant, another legend out of Atlanta. Go figure, with Operation Hope. I'm going to send out some links today, some previous interviews we've done with John. Tomorrow you're going to church. That's about the only way I can summarize what tomorrow will be like. You'll know what it's like to hear. I don't know what else to say about John. We'll have the link. Just listen to him and show up. It will be a fun, interesting and impactful show with him. Everybody, thanks for dialing in. You want to talk to me, reach out to me on Twitter, reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you have a guest you'd like us to get on or some topics you'd like us to cover, please ping us. Easy enough to do, and we'll make sure we get to those. Again, everybody, thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.